When you feel negative, life feels like such a chore and such a pain. But when you feel positive, when you feel good, life feels amazing and like the best thing ever. So how can Vipassana meditation reduce our negativity and increase our positivity so that we feel amazing all the time, or as much as we can, right? And the first thing to notice, obviously, you have no power over the outside world, right? You can't decide whether negative situations come to you or not, whether tragic things happen or not, right? You cannot control the world or other things, but you can control yourself, and you should control yourself, right? You have the ability and the power to influence yourself. So there's three places where negativity arises, or rather there are three phases of negativity in relation to the self, right? The first one is before it happens, as it's happening, after it happens. Pretty simple. So before it happens, right? I'll give you an analogy. There's a saying that says the needle that broke the camel's back. And so if you ever observe yourself, what I've noticed in myself in the past, imagine, something inconvenient happens to me. First one, it's all good. I take care of it. A couple minutes later, another inconvenience, another inconvenience, another inconvenience. There comes a point where one more inconvenient thing makes me lose my mind, or makes you lose your mind, right? And obviously the reaction, it's an overreaction to that last thing that broke my back or broke the camel's back, right? And in this, there's really deep insight. How you're feeling before the event happens determines how big of an impact it has on your psyche, right? How big of an impact this negative thing has depends on how I'm feeling before this negative thing even arises, right? And so unlike the first inconvenient thing that happened, because I was, assuming no other inconveniences happen, I'm relatively feeling good. And so I have the space to handle that negativity that comes up. But the 10th one in a short amount of time, I keep getting depleted. Then when it gets here, even though this one is not more inconvenient, it makes me explode, right? And it's because right before it, I was already feeling so much tension and so much agitation, and that made me explode. So the one thing with negativity, right, is before any negativity arises, whether it's a negative thought, whether it's a negative belief, whether it's a negative emotion, whether it's a negative external thing that happens, is the state that I am in prior determines how negative, how impactful that negative thing is on me. Right? And so how does Vipassana help with this? Vipassana meditation helps create a more joyful state, right? A just more calmer state, a more steady state, a more open state, right? Meditation helps decrease anxiety, helps decrease depression, right? We can go into the whole list of how it benefits your mental state, but it does benefit your mental state. So that's like the first way that it does, like a continuous cultivated practice makes it so that you are in a much better mental state, so that when negativity does arise, you have, the patience, you have the ability to not overreact. That's the first one. So then the second one next is, then we have the negativity actually arises, and then we have a reaction, right? We react to it. If it's something that we don't want to happen, which is, negativity, we don't want this thing to happen, we have a reaction. And having done the first thing where meditation helps us have our reaction be less, now we're already starting to manage it. But if we didn't have meditation and we didn't feel good, then our reaction would be super huge. So, and in this moment, when this reaction comes, it can be so strong that it completely overpowers you, right? Like there's a saying, like blind fit of rage is because the rage or the anger has just overpowered you so much that you're doing things that you don't even want to do, right? That later on you're going to regret. So in this moment, how does meditation help with when we're actually having the reaction and the negativity has come, right? So first of all, more self-awareness, right? That's one of the benefit of meditation. You have more self-awareness to be able to understand first what, like, not immediately, but to be able to say, oh, I'm now feeling angry before it's too late. So it decreases the time where you come to that cognition, where you come to that recognition of, oh, anger has arisen, irritation has arisen, or anything else that has arisen. And when you catch yourself, already that lowers the impact that emotion has on you. Like when you're in a fit of rage, you might be purely in it for some time, but then as your mind starts to come and be like, oh, let's try to make our way back down. And so if you can speed up that process to happen a lot faster, then you're contributing less negativity to the situation, to the thought, to the belief, to whatever it might be, right? So that's the second way, is when you're reacting, you have more self-awareness, more self-understanding, more recognizing, and then you can be in a position to act. And then after that, whether, again, it's an internal or external negativity that's happening, right? How you deal with it determines how impactful the negativity is, right? You could be someone that deals with something calmly and patiently, and things can be resolved very quickly. Or you can continue to be reactive and fighting back and fighting, and then it's like just an hour of fighting back and forth and nothing was accomplished. It was just literally like, I'm negative, I'm tossing it on you, they're tossing it, and then you're like just having a fight and it's not going anywhere. And obviously that increases the negativity. So you got to know, how do I decrease this negativity? And it is, you have to come to a solution, a compromise. You have to deal with whatever the negativity is, because usually it's a problem, right? The negativity usually shows itself as a problem and you got to resolve it. So how does Vipassana meditation help with resolving it? I think for me, I find the thing that Vipassana cultivates a lot of in me is curiosity, right? It makes me very curious, and it helps me understand that I don't know anything, right? It like decreases my ego. My ego wants to think that I know a lot and everything makes sense, and I try to make the world so small into my knowledge, right? And Vipassana helps me dissolve this. And so on a practical level, like when I'm meditating, how does it do that, right? Let's say one of the things in Vipassana, right, we're observing bodily sensations. My ego mind used to only think that this sensation had certain characteristics, right? Let's say it's an itchy sensation, right? Let's say like my forehead is itching. It actually was right now. But let's say I'm observing this sensation here and it was an itchy sensation, right? Before, in the beginning, or like a less cultivated mind would just say, well, this is an itch. But as I'm developing deeper into Vipassana, I'm coming to realize, that is just how my mind perceives it. And then along with the itch, there's some warmth, there's this tingling and stuff. But what I'm coming to realize more and more, there is a whole lot more than that. Both on a practical level of my awareness has sharpened to be able to feel dozens of different sensations in one specific object, but also my knowledge has grown, right? Just thinking at a knowledgeable level, this sensation is a physical sensation. And my physical body is made up of molecules that are each reacting and having their own lives. Those molecules are made up of atoms. Right. And those atoms are following their own rules, too. Right. Like the laws of physics govern or influence the way that these atoms are structuring themselves. And so there's like this depth. Right. It isn't just the perception of the sensation that's going on. Right. It's an itchy feeling. It's a hot feeling. It's a whatever feeling. There's so much depth. Right. Is the depth going all the way through the physical to the universal, all the way down. And there's all this information contained in my simple observation of this itchy sensation, right? And through the practice, right, it goes deeper and deeper, and I'm able to pierce deeper and deeper, subtler and subtler layers of reality to be able to tap into this. So this developed this keen understanding of how little I know and how my immediate perceptions are so limited in understanding the whole of everything only in relation to what I know, right? And so how does that come up when dealing with a negative situation, right? Let's say somebody is yelling at you or something. Now, my ego mind would start to get defensive. When I used to have an ego mind, I would get defensive. No, you're wrong. You know, whatever you're coming to me, obviously you're off your stuff because you're coming, yelling at me, doing all this stuff. And I immediately start fighting back. And that defensiveness is coming from, I know I did nothing wrong. Absolutely nothing, because I'm just awesome all the time. And then the fighting happens. Oh, hey, kitty. Oh, this way. So then the fighting is happening. And that does not lead to a conclusion. So having this curiosity of, there is a whole lot that not only I do not know, but it's hard for me to even perceive. And this other person, I haven't even talked to them, right? And so I'm able to come from a more collected, calm place and be like, tell me what's going on. First, I'm investigating. Let me collect your point of view because I don't know anything. I don't even know what's going on. But there must be a reasonable explanation for why you are upset. And a lot of times, from their perspective, there is a reasonable, right? And so coming into this from this place of, I do not know, let me find out. I, deal with the situation. Or let's imagine the negativity is like a negative thought or a negative belief about yourself, like I'm not good enough, for example. Then with this mindset of, okay, I don't know, let me find out, then you ask yourself, what are the reasons why this is true? And sometimes you'll find, X, Y, Z happened. And then because you're observing it from this curious place, you don't just confirm to the immediate things it talks, you start to dig deeper as you do in Vipassana. There's so many layers of sensations going all the way down to the universe and how it is generating and making possible all these laws. And even if we can't actually perceive the universe itself, we can perceive deeper and deeper layers of interactions and things that are happening. So anyway, you come up to this belief, and as you pierce deeper and deeper into the belief, you start to break it down, look at it from different angles. Then you can see the other side. You can see why it's also not true that you're not good enough. And then you start to develop more wisdom, right? Because now it's not as impactful as you, right? So that's the other way that Vipassana meditation, right? By lowering your ego, by lowering that sense of I'm right all the time and it's just me and whatever pops up, I just have to fight all the time. That starts to decrease. Then the next one is more, once the negativity passes, how does that lead to the next one and the next one? And there's like a chain of events, just as in the beginning of the video where it was talking about the 10 things that happen to break my back or break the camel's back. Now imagine how you handle this negative situation. Let's say you had this much energy, you dealt with it, you brought here. So with the camel thing, it's like you just kept going all the way down, down, down. So anyway, now apply this over longer periods of time and you understand, holy moly, if I can handle this situation better, if I can use less energy, if I can waste less energy, then I have more energy for whatever is next. And then that leads to, again, like the first one, whatever state you're in, like if you're in a better state, things appear less negative because you have more space. And if you're in a worse state, things appear more negative because you're already like at your wit's end. So now this carries through because you handled both the arising of the thing before it happened, during, and afterwards. Now you have more energy for the next thing, and the next thing doesn't drag you down as much. And like this, you build your capacity over the long term to be able to come at life more consciously, more awarely. And now here's one more bonus. With Vipassana, right, meditation, the idea is to get to a point where you are always meditating on some level. And in Vipassana, that meditating means being aware of bodily sensations, right? And so for you advanced practitioners, I really do encourage you to continue to cultivate that. And one thing I found how to incorporate it into my life. Obviously, 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour at night. I'm started doing more 2 to 3 to 5 minute chunks of meditation. Maybe at work I got a 30-minute lunch break. I'll take 5 of those minutes and meditate. You know, I got my 2 10-minute breaks. I'll take some of that and meditate. And also, when I am doing something like reading a book, or I like am more so like, let's say I'm watching an hour of TV or something. At that time, I will try to be aware of my sensations on my body as I'm watching the show, because the show doesn't really take a lot of mental computational power to do. And if I'm not focused on it, there's no negative consequences. So I simply try to observe my sensations as much as I can during that time. So whenever I'm doing things that don't require a lot of mental effort, I'm incorporating more meditation into it, even if it's not fully closed eyes. And that helps with the whole thing I'm talking about in the video, where you're just maintaining more of that state. Because what happens with meditation, you meditate for an hour in the morning, you come up here, boom, 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 lunchtime, afternoon, you're just doing this. So when you incorporate meditating here, you decrease, 5 minutes, you plateau for a little bit, goes down, 2 minutes, you plateau. And then by the end of the day, you're still decreasing, but you don't go down as much. And especially with these things of watching TV that can become really mind draining after a time, when you do Vipassana during it. And obviously this doesn't replace your formal sitting, but when you do it during it, you're less depleted when you come out. So anyway, thanks for watching. Have a good one.